can go on with the same tools that we were using in the past, like Teams, like for some webinars, we've also used Zoom. So we had all the tools that we needed to continue communicating. However, you know that when you are online, it's like we experienced today, we miss somehow some of the non-verbal communication, the cues, the signs that usually you pick up when you are in a face-to-face discussion. So what we did to improve and to cover for this absence of the face-to-face communication was to simply use it more frequently, the online communication with camera on, making all kind of live events where people had the chance to ask their own questions and concerns and to express them. Of course, we always answer to those concerns. But we also had more frequent one-to-one discussions, online one-to-one discussions. We had even birthday celebrations online. We had talent show online. More recently, I think last month, we organized the first team building online. So it is possible, but you have to make an extra effort to make up for this inconvenience of not being all together in the same room. But I think it's possible.
Hey, thanks, Christina. Andre, I'm going to come to you because you're on my big screen as I'm looking here. Andre, I'm going to ask you, just to say, follow up what Christina says. Yeah, we're talking about communication. I think Christina touched on the spirit of the team would seem to be a big emphasis, of course. But what about the other communication, the business communication side? Has that been a challenge, or how have you managed that at VM?
Thanks, Colin, for the question. The transition to from the office to the remote work environment in terms of communication has been unexpectedly smooth, if you ask me. We did have to put some on-purpose effort into having our team managers reaching out to their employees, and instead of having a coffee in the office, to do that online with a coffee roulette and stuff like that. But it's somehow it went in a kind of a natural way. But with that in mind, I think what's important in terms of communication is that, and that's the definition I kind of shared with my team to keep in mind. To me, teleworking equals trust-based working, and from that, communication needs to follow through. I think with the new setup, with most of the people working from home these days is all about trust, and from a communication standpoint, it doesn't mean that we have to be behind our people and be control freaks and stuff. It's rather empowering the people to make mistakes and learn from them. So those are a couple of things that we've highlighted internally in terms of communication, not just between the managers and the team members, but also within the same team. I think what's really emerging, and we'll probably talk a little bit more about this later, is some new leadership styles that need to be adjusted to the new way of doing things or the new world. And this, if you ask me, in terms of communication, and not only, it poses a lot of effort, let's say, on the manager's shoulders, and they will probably be in the office at some point in time with different people, with different experiences, and they will have to cater for the different groups' needs, right? Because people will have get used to working from home, dealing with whatever personal matters, homeschooling kids, whatever, looking after sick relatives or stuff like that. And when they return to the office, the managers with their leadership style will have to consider that. So there are a lot of trends emerging, not just from the office standpoint, and I'm pretty sure Tudor and Antonio and our guest speakers will talk about the office and how that can be set up in the new environment. But from a leadership standpoint, there will be some new trends, and we'll touch base on that later on. Probably the third.
Thanks, Andre. It's interesting. You use the word trust there, and I think that's something we'll talk about a little bit later on. You're right, the leadership style. I'm going to come to Mike in a moment because I know you're a man who leads with the heart. But Johan, I want to come to you just on another subject on this, in terms of, and I guess being an entrepreneur that you are, that you've developed your business by those sort of impromptu moments of brainstorming and coming up with ideas and concepts and everything else. Don't you miss that when you don't have your team around you? How do you continue that internal entrepreneurship?
Well, yeah, that's obviously change, and we need to adapt. Luckily, being a company that works with international clients and very used to this remote way of working, it was an easy transition. So obviously we did a transition like everybody else. We work remotely, and now we have to find ways to keep this innovation going. I mean, to still go. But I just want to make one comment, and related to Andrei's comment about trust. And they say culture is what happens when you're not looking. Now, obviously, nobody's is looking, so you have to go towards a more trust-based interaction, and focus more on productivity instead of just counting hours and check that people are in the office, because obviously that's not possible and not lucrative in any way. Indeed, the sparks of innovation, like the ones that happen when you sit in the same room, are missing. So that's something we look forward to coming back, and we try to do it online, but it's not the same. So I think this is the thing we miss. Also, on one thing, just on this leadership that Andrei also mentioned, is now it's more important to be like the servant leader that enables the team with tools and practices, methodology, and just gives them the trust to do their stuff the best they can.
Thanks for that. Now we've used the word trust 5 times now. I'm making little notes. Quite a prominent part in that. Mike, to you very quickly. So I just want to get a little input from everybody on this first session before we dig in a little bit deeper with the other parts. So Mike, I described you as a man who leads with your heart, and I know that when I've spoken to you, how much you care about your people. How just very quickly, how are you coping with this and maintaining that relationship?
Well, I think the word maintaining is very good, because what we are doing basically for the time being is that we are maintaining a situation which hasn't changed that much. I mean, my belief is that if you do not have a very hierarchical management structure and you have a very inclusive structure, the word trust, which has been used several times, becomes, in a sense, a status quo. Because if people are empowered, and if people are working independent, and if people are communicating well with each other, then obviously things are going well, irrespective if somebody is looking or is not looking. But because you mentioned 5 times the word trust, we
6 now.
should 6 now, 7 even. We should take into consideration that trust is not symbolizing only evidence. Trust is also symbolizing the push. You are giving something to push it forward. So basically, when we are using trust, we obtain a combination of both. I mean, we are obtaining the confidence that things are working only when we are sitting on the beach, but most importantly is that they are pushed forward. Okay.
Louise, I'm gonna come to you in a moment to talk about Orange, where it's the high productivity kind of environment, I'm guessing, and I just get a quick point from you. But I want to come to Antonio in terms of your experiences now. You have Vastinge, you have many tenants, and I guess you're getting the experiences from very different levels. What are your personal experiences on the sort of the working from home a little bit and how that's affecting communication? What feedback are you getting and what are you observing?
I will start with positive news, good news. The world is not ending today.
Hey.
So we have a lot of things to do. We had also, we were confronted with this situation, which is really unpleasant with this new virus. When it was the lockdown, a part of us worked from home, initially all of us, because of course it was a total novelty for the situation for all of us, and we had to find a way to step forward. Then we realized that, of course, we are developers, and communication for us, it's teamwork. For us, it's very important, and creating new buildings and finding solutions, it will not work from home. Starting with communication issues, software, and so on, until security of the data, interaction with our colleagues. We are in our DNA as humans. We need to interact, and isolating ourselves is not working for long term. Studies already are showing up that there are a new situation regarding violence in the family, less productivity, security, software security issues, data issues. So there are a lot of issues that they're just popping up. It's a new reality which we have to adapt to. One thing is for sure, I was with a big part of the team coming back immediately as legally was allowed to the office, and because we have running offices of over 100,000 square meters in two projects, Team Purnoi Square and Business Garden Bucharest, and we are looking into the future now. What will be the next step? So we needed to, because I want to limit this discussion now, the communication. We needed to come back to the office to can communicate and prepare the next phases of the projects and the next projects. Sooner or later, the virus will, it will not be soon, but this virus sooner or later will be eradicated.
Okay. So there's a common message there about human interaction is very important. Louisa, then I'm going to come to you, Tudor, from a real estate perspective. But Louisa, how is it at Orange? How are you managing this at Orange?
You mean the communication, the productivity, the engagement, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So, as my colleague said, some of my colleagues said before, we had this remote work before pandemic, but it was limited to some number of days per month. And it can be extended if the manager was agreeing with his colleague that that can be extended. So it was not something like very strange, but having 100% of the people home, except of course for the people in front line in shops, it was a bit weird for us. And it's well known that in big companies like Orange, the informal communication, it's a way that helps employees to stay connected and updated with what is happening in their teams and at company level. And now we haven't had the chance to stop by each other's desk and ask questions, get a piece of advice, just talk. So what we did, and I don't want to repeat everything that my colleague said, what we did that we equipped our managers with the guide of recommendations and on how to plan meetings, how to keep breaks during online meetings, because it was like a roller coaster all this period, and we were from Zoom to Zoom. How to pay attention to the way the people are behaving, because what they are saying, what they are not saying, just to see if they are coping well during this period with fears, with uncertainties, with whatever things, and how to try to help them finding individual solution rather than general solution, and not judging people and so on and so forth. What we did also was that we changed the concept that we have of flexi hours, because it was not only always from 9 to 6. There were people coming earlier, people coming late, and so on. And now, because we were not on the same schedule time, we had people working abroad, we have people with kids at home, and they needed some space during the day. So we rethink this concept of flexi hours and did it this way. But what I can say, like a summary, is that in this difficult period, communication was key, but a real, transparent, very open and strong communication every day.
Okay. I was thinking as you were talking there, Louisa, one thing I miss is the office gossip. I guess you don't get that on Zoom anymore, do you? So that'll be one nice thing. We'll get all the gossip.
Although I wanted to say that informal communication was about gossip as well, but I was like, okay, it's not the case, but yes.
Okay. And Tudor, and I'm going to come finally to Georgiana, and we're going to talk about health and well-being, because Antonio's really touched on this, and I think it was a serious sort of point he was like a red flag that he was waving there, that and you mentioned there, Louisa, we have to be careful about the psychological and mental impact on this. In practical terms, it may sound okay, but maybe in the longer term may have an impact. So Tudor, you're in the mix, and your guys are in the mix in terms of talking to tenants and talking to people, and they're probably saying, I'm not sure what we're supposed to do. What's happening in your world, and what are you hearing, and what are you telling people?
I'm going to tell you what I'm feeling right now in the world, and I'm going to start from our panel, because I think it's very interesting, and I really feel that word that was mentioned several times, and I will emphasize on it every time, trust. It's something that is redefining our relationships right now. And Iwan talked about culture. Andrei was the one to put trust on the map. Mike talking about leadership. I think all our themes right now are more profound, and we're not talking anymore about some dry notions like square meters or types of carpets. When we're doing architecture, we're really going deep into what the space means, into what the humans need. And for me, as an architect, I'm working with these two notions, trying to find the perfect way for them to absolutely interact. So the work from home, if you want, one of the positives of it was that it really made us ask deeper questions, like what is the meaning of our work, what we're doing, how we're adding value, and of course all of this connected to the space. And the communication was one of the greatest challenges in the latest times. Of course, I'm going to hear from Mike and Lisa, and I'm very interested to see what happens inside your own companies. I can tell you, for us, apart from being inside the company and trying to have a very organized, layered conversational structure inside to keep us together, to feel that we're part, each of us, of a team, and each of us is a little cell of this bigger organism. It was a challenge for us to keep the conversation going and open with the clients and with what they are feeling, what is happening right now, and not doing only that, again, dry survey type, but keeping them together. And we found a solution for this. It was an informal coffee with CBRE, a virtual coffee with CBRE, where we invited a few partners that really exchanged ideas about their experience during the last period. But I really think that this experience of work from home really put on the map deeper issues that need a deeper thinking behind them to solve them correctly.
Okay. So it sounds like we're having lots of Zoom calls, business calls, but also a few therapy sessions, discrete therapy sessions going on there as well. Thanks for that, Tudor. Georgiana, I want to come to you. We'll talk about mind and body, because Antonio touched on it. Tudor's touched on it, and Louisa, you know, everybody sort of touched on this subject about relationships, communications, and we're touching on the impact on predominantly young people. You know, there's an average, I think, in the business services industry, 26, 27-year-old, a lot of young people, and we're looking at how they cope. Give us a sort of an overview and an advice on what's happening right now and what we need. You know, what is your advice to people on how we manage this in the workplace as people start maybe coming back to the workplace, but with a certain trepidation, a certain anxiety about doing so? What is your message?
Hi, Colin. Hi, everybody. I like very much your questions, but before touching on this point, there is something that I would like to add to what the other panelists have said. And for us, this period has been very much about over-communication, because the virus that we are fighting against, it's a virus that we didn't have enough information about. The information were changing. And for us, it was very much about keeping, of course, the medical teams up to date with the latest information, keeping the sales teams informed, and also looking at our corporate clients, making sure that they have available the latest information and making sure we answer to all of their questions. And I believe that we said in this period that there is no such thing as over communication. We'd rather say that we've said too much rather than not saying enough. And then getting to your question in regard to the mental health. Indeed, this is one of the hot topics these days. And looking at our corporate clients, I believe that 1 in 2 conversations is about this. I think during our last live meeting also with the Diplomat in February, we were talking about well-being within the companies, and it was a trend that was just started, and this trend was really, really accelerated in this period. And something that we've seen lots of interest was a new product that we launched right before the pandemic, without knowing what we'll expect that this will happen. And it's a hotline where the employees of the companies can call for if they have a panic attack, or if they are stressed, if they need to go to work and they feel that they are putting their families in danger, and talk to a psychologist. And if before the pandemic we were feeling like we need to push, and companies were doing really big programs in order to promote this within their companies, now the interest of the employees has been really, really high, because it's obvious that being alone in the house, either if you are with 3 family members, or if maybe you are really alone for a long period of time, you need support. And this is what we see that employees are feeling, but really we feel that companies are coming and talking to us, asking, okay, what can we do for our employees, and to take care also of their mental well-being, because we are talking about a long period. We don't know how long it will last, but it's obvious that some of the things that we knew before will never be exactly the same. So we need to find a replacement for the office gossip and the way for people to ventilate.
Okay, and it was interesting, the coincidence that you set that up just before COVID, so I won't get suspicious of Regina Maria in any way at all, but it's interesting on that in terms of that, and I think we'll come back onto this subject, because I'm sure people watching this will have the same concerns, either themselves or for work colleagues, on how, as we've said, the data is still coming in, isn't it? But I think it's starting to come to the surface now. So let's just switch subjects for a minute. Thank you very much, Georgiana, and everybody for that. I want to sort of just change subjects just for a little while and talk about IT and new technologies. As I mentioned at the beginning, there was this sort of great input, and Romania was very much getting firmly on the map globally as this sort of IT expert hub, if you like, within the world. And there was a lot of implementations going on. And I just want to sort of touch on touch on this. Louisa, I'm going to come to you first, if I may, and just talk about this. Is in terms of, now we're on, I think a lot of us are expert Zoom callers now, but you know, even and Morella won't mind me mentioning, even before this call, we had a couple of little minor adjustments to do. So there's never a perfect world, and some of our abilities and that. And I just want to touch with you, Louisa, in terms of what you're doing there for people to be more sort of adapting and adopting of technology, and I'd like you to just touch a little bit on the startups, because I know you have the Orange Fab setup, and just to really touch on that a little bit, if you may.
Okay, so I will start by saying what is in my yard related to technologies and data and so on. So we just implemented during this period the first chatbot in HR using a local company called Druid. We are working with them since last year, and this very nice chatbot called the Robbie is helping our employees in getting certificates, changing the medical policies for their own the medical provider, and it's a very nice little personage on our intranet. And during this period, we even enhance him more with the new flows, because people were staying home and not be able to come to the company to do payments and so on and so forth. And the last flow that we implemented was iPay. And we had, in a short period of time, more than 3,000 interaction with this new Druid, with this chatbot. Wow. And we put him in a small team, which is called Ask HR. And just for you to know, this Ask HR has only 3 people who are serving more than 3,600 people in the company. So this chatbot just give a hand in solving all the problems, and the NPS that we have after the people interaction with this Robbie were very good. Now, speaking about Orange Fab, it's something that we launched years ago, and it's a 1-year acceleration program for local startups from different areas, from different fields, from, I don't know, cybersecurity for smart cities, solutions to HR solution. What we are doing, we are helping these startups to further develop their products and to find the right local or international market for them to sell these products they have. Mm. Now we are in a context in which we have, on one hand, our permanent care for our digital experience for our employees, and on the other hand, the thing that we wanted to change, the appraisal process, the performance appraisal process, and we just needed a new and very friendly tool. And we found this startup, which is called Nestor from Iași, who enrolled in our Orange Fab in beginning of 2020. And they have such a wonderful app in which we can put everything from the objective and key results setting to level of skilling, to skills and market, to continuous feedback, to engagement survey, everything we have there. Why we choose them? Because they seem very innovative, they seem very agile, and they have no issues in further developing their product together with us. So they did not say, this is the product, take it or leave it. They were very open-minded and say, okay, what do you need more? What do you need more? And it was very funny because we were helping them going through all the very heavy procedures and things that are done in big companies. And because for young entrepreneurs, for small entrepreneurs, this can look scary sometimes. So yes, we are very keen to attract small startups and to make them then grow together with us.
Okay, thank you for that. I did get a little message from my friend Dan Sahari, just mentioning that Nestor in Fab Lab Yashto. So I'll give you a heads up on there. So well done on that. Mike, I'll come to you on this in terms of this sort of internal communications, people working from home, the quality of internet connection, interrupting important meetings, etc., but also the training of people to do things effectively. Is it a skill? Yeah, I shouldn't say that because I'm hosting a Zoom call now, but is there a certain skill that's required, and should we be taking more time with that because there's going to be more of this in the future?
Well, it's a good question if it is a skill, but the same question we can ask also if, for example, mobile phones require a skill. Yeah. Yes, because everybody's using it. And I think we have to take the computers much more as a normal part of our life. I mean, computers are not an invention of yesterday. I mean, Babbage invented his first machine in 1833, and even Apple and the IBM computers are already close to 50 or 60 years old. So they live with us for quite a long time, and we should take it as a normal part of our activity. Obviously, working in the IT sector, we have been a little bit more blessed because we are used to the computer skills, and we are also very fortunate, thanks to activities of companies like Orange, Vodafone, and RCS, that we have one of the best internet connection in the world, which makes a big difference. It makes a big difference because basically there isn't anything which you cannot put on the internet. The problem is actually to do it. I think in the past, and which we should consider for the future, we faced two major problems. One of the problem was the fact that we have taken our basic activity as granted, and we considered that the way in which things are working, they're going to work forever. And with quite a lot of companies I've spoke, to my surprise, I found very few business continuity plan if something goes wrong. Not necessarily a virus arrives. If you lose electricity for 2 weeks, or if somebody walks into your country or whatever, or a huge earthquake, a lot can happen. And everybody should think, what do I do in the condition in which I cannot work as I have been used to? And secondly, when we have a possibility, I think we should use it to the maximum. Like, for example, the internet and the IT, and not only play with it. A good example in this sense is, for example, Excel. Everybody knows Excel, but nobody uses more than 50% of what that software can do. From the IT point of view, what we have done, because we are an IT company, even if we are relatively young, yesterday was our 7th birthday, we have practically put everything online. There is no more paper in DB Global Technology, zero. I mean, from contract to onboarding to delivery notes to everything is online. So it doesn't matter where we are sitting, because we can go through those papers, we can issue papers, we can sign papers, we can issue documents, and so on. Related to what Luisa said with Robbie, we have built our chatbot about 2 years ago. Its name is AIDA. And AIDA was then extended also into the Deutsche Bank group, and it reduced the workload of the people with about 70%. Which is enormous. Yes, basically everything what means administration, paperwork, certification, God knows whatever ask you somebody to do, you can get it. You can get it from that part. But I think the most important part which we have did for occasions like this, we have trained before. In the last 3 years, we had 3 occasions where we send our people home for 2 days. Just to see if the network works, because even if the network is wonderful and gives you 1 gigabyte download, there are tweaks and bits and parts which you have to adjust, which you have to address, and so on. And this gave us the and in this way we were working also before. So it was reasonably easy for us to switch on the 10th of March and said, starting from the 11th of March, we are all working from home. But there is also something else we shouldn't forget. And sometimes we have to be careful not to make out of a fly an elephant. Everybody who is working in the international business, and all of the present panelists, to my knowledge, are working in international business, we are working anyhow with 50% at least of our stakeholders online. When we are talking with our partners from Germany or from France or from England or from the States, day in, day out, we are doing it anyhow online. When we are sharing presentation, okay, we haven't done it with Zoom, which exploded now. We have done it with Skype or with WebEx and so on. We have done it the same. The only difference is the fact that internally there is now a little bit change which is coming. And this change is going to have a tremendous effect in the future, not from the point of view of how we are organized, because that is easy, but from the point of view of how we are changing the relationship between us, and especially the relationship between the managers and the employees. And I think here we should use a lot the power of IT.
Okay, interesting, Mark, and happy birthday to you and the team.
Thank you, thank you.
Years. Antonio, I'm going to come to you because I know you're a man who has sort of great vision on how the office building is going to be, not just now, but in the future. A lot of technology that's involved and is a big differentiator, I think, for developers now. Mike kind of touched on the fact that sometimes we have a lot of technology, but we don't use it all. How are you seeing in terms of people actually adopting technology, not just in the buildings, but within the workplace? And how do we prevent us sort of doing lots of things, but nobody's using it? How do we sort of, let's say, educate people to take full advantage of this technology that's around them?
Very good question. What happened now with this situation created by the virus, it showed us also in the public administration what it means not to use the technology which is at hand. And now suddenly it was possible. This is the future technology. Also in our business, in the development, and also in all the other businesses that they will develop on long term. Artificial intelligence is more and more applied, starting from appliances at home, smart home, until everything will be connected with 5G soon. So yeah, we have to adapt, all of us. It's a new reality. This virus only speeded up everything and made us more aware about the technology. All the relevant companies are focused on technology, but maybe in some cases it wasn't prioritized because it wasn't needed. Yeah, papers are still okay, and it was a way of the general manager or whatever. But now all of us, we have to use it more. In our business, we used it, and now we will use it even more, because we have to focus on the future and what the future of the office buildings will be, or residential buildings. Also, we are hotels operators and owners. So we are focusing a lot on using this technology to control one of the best examples is in the new reality of today is the fresh air supply. Suddenly a big part of the real estate portfolio in the markets worldwide are outdated because they are using they are mixing the fresh air with used air in the premises. This is already an issue from COVID point of view. All the new buildings, as also we have, but we designed it not because of the COVID, but because this is the way to provide a modern office building. 100% of fresh air supply in the premises. So all our buildings in Romania and of course in Europe are designed like this. And the ones that they are not up to date with the technology, they will lose. And tenants, in our case, they will focus more on buildings that they can provide a very good fresh air, 100% fresh air, and not mixed with the used air, which can be a source of different diseases, not only COVID. Continuing with equipments that they are saving energy, LED lights, elevators. We also installed Schindler elevators, the latest technology, which is generating energy when the elevators are going down, and there it is reused in the buildings. So all of us, we have to be connected to the technology, and because it's the new reality. It's just the COVID is just speeded up everything.
I guess so, isn't it? But it's interesting what you say there. And Jon, I want to come to you in a moment. I want to bring Georgiana in, but just take on that and what Antonio said. Antonio, you're kind of, I guess when I was younger, the lifespan of technology, let's say it was a fax machine, probably not half the listeners don't know what a fax machine is. Fax machine had kind of a 20-year lifespan. CDs had a 20-year lifespan. Fast forward to today, new technology you're talking about, which we're like, wow, that's cool with the air and everything else, but it's got a shorter lifespan. So I guess your message is, and Jon, I want to come back to you on that, is how we cope with that. But before we do that, Georgiana, I want to come to you about the healthcare industry. You know, we talk about technology in many industries, but we still think the healthcare industry is kind of traditional. But I don't think it is it?
It was. I mean, if Marianne was saying that for them it was not necessarily a big change, and also Luisa was mentioning that people were used to also working remotely. If you look at medicine, there was no telemedicine in Romania before COVID because there was not a legislation that would allow this. So for us, the pandemic really made the digitalization go very fast. I mean, we launched our virtual clinic in 10 days together with the Microsoft team, which would have never happened under normal circumstances. And we have to say that we are very happy because the adoption from the doctors was quite high. I mean, in less than 2 months, we managed to bring in the virtual clinic around 500 doctors, which is an impressive number, and have somewhere around 30,000 slots that are allocated in the virtual clinic monthly. So for us, from this point of view, this is one of the things. I mean, I think this is the thing that the pandemic brought good, and we really believe that this virtual clinic brings a real added value for the people on the short term and also on the long term.
Wow, interesting. I should tell everybody, I did phone Georgiana yesterday, told her I had a headache, and she said, so have I, and put the phone down on me. So moving on to Jon, and I just want to come to you. Then we're going to change subjects very, very slightly. But my friend, how are you in terms of everything we heard about technology? And Mike mentioned, I think jokingly, but could be about earthquakes and something suddenly happening. Yeah, are we putting all our eggs in one basket, as we say, or should we take a steady approach to the implementation of technology and understanding and adoption of it? What's your thoughts? Are you a bit concerned from a Tremen point of view, or is the ship already sailing?
Well, for us, being enabled of digital tools and technology, and I'm glad here that we have both Orange and Orange Money and Regina Maria as our clients, and we held them for quite a few years now. Both companies that are fully onboarded in this customer experience thing that is going on. I mean, more and more you see companies differentiated on this experience that they give to the client, and now being digital is even more visible. So getting digital is no longer an option. Yesterday, I've been in a steer call with a British company, like FTSE 250, and we were worried that you know, what will happen next year, maybe the budget, because the company suffered some losses. But the CEO actually in his report to the stock exchange says, you know, digital acceleration, that's the key, and we are one of the companies that help them with that. So I wouldn't worry too much. It's you have to go digital, and you know, I'll speak of some initiatives that we managed to do in this period. One in digital onboarding and origination, this kind of thing that enables you in Revolut style to scan your documents when digitally sign contracts, which is a tool of today. We're going to also have a webinar on the 9th on e-proctoring, which is remote taking of exams, yeah, in a secure way, and along with Typing DNA, also a Romanian startup, we managed to which is in typing biometrics. Basically, when you give an exam, you're gonna be popped up some questions when you have to type in the answers, and based on the typing, we know it's you. So this is very handy in this remote environment, also with browser tracking and things like that. So we try to adapt things in this area. Things like open banking are, you know, and we are partners with MasterCard to enable this more and more, and it's going to ease the use of you know, customers to access their digital their services. So lots of things are happening in this customer experience space. It's a whole new world. Yeah.
So gone are the days when you could bully somebody into doing your homework. You can't do it anymore because who's typed it, I guess. Andre, just come to you very, very quickly. I'm predicting your answer, but do you sort of concur with what Jon's saying, that, you know, the ship is sailing and we should embrace it and really sort of build on it, not just for our own companies, but I guess for Romania's footprint globally as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's probably nothing smart that I can add to what's been said already on the topic, but you know, technology has been really embraced quickly when it comes to our teams. Acceleration, we've seen that as well, and you know, sometimes I'm just wondering, what's different today? I know this is a dumb question, but what's different today that, you know, made us accelerate, you know, the implementation of e-signature, you know, DocuSign, which is
the kick in the back. I'm telling you, the kick in the back.
Yeah. So, you know, and yeah, probably I'll have the opportunity later to talk a little bit about fear, and I think, you know, that's back to what Luisa just mentioned. So, you know, we've seen that as well. In terms of technology or processes that have been impacted in a positive way by technology, I would want to highlight the HR processes. I think that's where, you know, we were hit very quickly, and we had to do something, because, you know, obviously with people not being in the office, how do you get, you know, certificates and stuff like that? So again, I'm not going to repeat the stuff that's been said, but yeah, that's the way to be, and adoption needs to be pretty quickly. And, you know, as Marian said, computers have been around for 80 whatever number of years, so, you know, it's part of our lives already.
I have a little bit a different opinion here, if I may.
Yes, of course, Mike.
I don't think the ship is sailing. I'm pretty convinced that the ship is ready and is glowing at the dock. And some of us, including us, for example, are very proud that we are able to do so. But in order really to make the difference, we have to push IT being used everywhere, not only in the percentage of the companies and the country, not only in the percentage of the companies like the ones which are here present in the panel. I mean, if you have 500 outstanding companies and you have 500,000 companies which are still using Excel sheets and are using paperwork, that is not enough. The frustrating thing which is today is that the tool is there, the capability of transferring the knowledge is there, but too many people are just linked to the past, and we have to unblock this blocker, which is extremely damaging. And if we manage to have a 40 or 50% digitalization and use of IT in the whole country, then we can proudly say that the ship is sailing.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Mike. And I guess you're kind of touching on a point there in terms of the uncertainty, and we mentioned HR 2 or 3 times. And I guess the role of an HR person is dramatically changing as automation comes in. And I want to sort of touch on RPA, but more importantly, physically robots. So I don't know where that ship is right now when I talk about this, Mike, but sometime in the future or sometime right now, I'm at Corporate Office Solutions, and they've got a friendly robot that greets you when you come through the door now. And that's going to take me straight to Tudor, because Tudor, I think you're going to brighten up proceedings with a little bit of an injection of a surprise for us, Tudor.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm going to do a little introduction for this surprise, Colin, because we at CBRE have a humanoid robot, which is now becoming an integral part of our team, and it's becoming an integral part of our workplace experience. So I'm going to just, for a moment, share its message with you.
Well, hello, Colin, and hello, everyone at The Diplomat. I am impressed to see this high-value lineup thinking about the workplace of the future, even if we are not face-to-face for the moment. Frankly speaking, I do perfectly understand this antivirus measures, and now you can see for yourself what us, the robots, have to deal with every moment of our life. Hopefully, you will find the cure for this soon. But what I do not get it is where all the people went. Working from home? What does it mean? I can work from wherever there is an internet cable and a power source. So, what is home? What I cannot do is to interact with people if they are not around me. I cannot help, guide, or learn from them. I am not able to structure my data, providing useful answers and actions for real people if they are not next to me. The bots can. Artificial intelligence can. But people are not bots, nor artificial. They use more emotional intelligence than IQ to overcome rational problems, and this type of intelligence is developing only with collaboration and interaction. So, what I am trying to say is that people are ready for robots, bots, AI, automation, you name it. Actually, their workplaces are the ones that need to be prepared for this high-degree encounter between data and artificial intelligence on one hand, and emotional intelligence on the other hand. But I will let Tudor to give you more insights about this, and I know that Louisa and Mike have a lot to share with us on this topic also. Thank you all for your attention.
Thank you for that, Tudor. I should clarify to anybody who doesn't know Tudor or watching this that he is actually human. I think you could, and Pepper is the robot. But I guess Pepper, if Pepper was, if that was sort of coming from a human being, it's probably the most sensible thing that's been said on this whole. No, I won't say that. But Tudor, elaborate a little bit on this, on the message that Pepper's giving us, and also touch a little bit on this fear of, and we've talked about this for years. Are robots going to take my job? What are you saying about all of this?
Again, starting from our topic and what ignited us being here together, this work from home, it really made a leap in the way we use technology. I mean, it's like 2 years ahead just by having to stay at home and having to adapt quickly. It's amazing to hear Georgiana that they put a virtual clinic in 10 days operating. For me, this is unthinkable, and it was unthinkable even before. And I think we're all becoming slowly and slowly technology and data companies. So it's, for me, it's no longer a discussion of humans versus machine. It's more discussions of humans and machine together in the same space dedicated to work. And I'm going to go into my field of expertise here on the built environment, because the subject of automation here is extremely large and it's developing quite quickly. The built environment naturally has a very great latency to adopt new things from the technological point of view. When you design something in this moment, people will start experiencing it in a space in the future, I don't know, for 5 or 6 years from now on. So from all of these tasks that you can do, sensors, data, systems, spaces, architecture, from all of these things that you can do, I think the future of the workplace, we're gonna go into 2 categories of technology on a built environment. They're going to be the assistive category on one side, with the automation of the building that will produce relevant data and information for a better decision, like a platform that you can manipulate the building's parameters. For sure, Antonio mentioned about the elevator energy systems, but you can predict when technical things are going to fail in the building, and you can go and find the optimal moment to replace various technical specs inside. And there's another category which I found also interesting in technology used inside a building. It's a symbiotic category. It's a type of automations that will generate options for us, for people to choose from. Because I think everything inside, and when I'm looking in our space, in any space, everything emits data. It's just an issue to collect that data from our own movement inside an office, from the temperature point of view, from the sound levels. Everything is data that you can get, you can structure, and you can form some real alternatives following that. So I think we're going to use that symbiotic category to design the next buildings. So I think I'm going to ask you, Colin, because how long do you think it's going to be before the workplace senses that you're tired and delivers your coffee?
Good question. Sorry, I lost it. I lost the end of it. Say it again.
How long before your workplace will sense that you're tired
That's
and
right.
delivers your coffee? I think you did it on.
Yeah, I
got
that bit. I thought you said something else. I missed it.
I'm going to send you a coffee.
Yeah, I think people sense it anyway. When you get to my age, you show you're tired by actually falling asleep and snoring. So I guess that's not far away. Antonio, there's come to you in terms of, and let's still touch on this, but specifically for you, is it possible to do all our tasks remote, or is it going to become possible to do that, or what do you see as the future of you look at your crystal ball over the next 2, 3, 5 years?
I don't have the crystal ball, but what can I say? It's now the personal experience regarding the home work from home, and friends of mine, other managers, directors of different companies, and what they are confronted with. There are a lot of challenges, that's for sure. The future of the offices, there will be offices further. Of course, there will be changes that they were expected also for future. But again, nothing new. It's just speeded up now with this situation. With this COVID situation, it's expected, in my opinion, of course, that more space will be needed. Of course, a part of the employees will work from home. Businesses that they are adapted to this kind of environment, but still our human nature, our DNA, it's formed as such for us to permanently search for communication, direct interaction, and socializing. It's not possible for majority of us, a big part of the humankind, to be isolated in a house. I'm not speaking about the size of the house, because some of us were bigger, some of us smaller houses. But you can see worldwide that in more and more cities, they are protesting against very restrictive limitation of movement rights. And I fully agree. I studied myself and also my colleagues, and we couldn't take it. It's fun. It sounds good. or work from home, fun. But after a few weeks, you realize that suddenly there is no borderline between work and personal life. It's a mixture of, it's a new feeling, because no one of us lived through this kind of situation in the recent decades. So suddenly we realize that it sounds fun, but then you cannot separate the two. And suddenly in the evening, although you stood all day long home, you are tired, because permanently you are mixing everything. Yeah. And then there's associated psychological issues, which not all of us, but some of us, we could have, or we already had, starting to be very pessimistic, or different ways of being affected. Being bombed all the time by news, which is in many cases exaggerated, put a lot of accent on shocking news, on different shocking opinions. All these things are contributing to affect all of us. So I don't think, of course, I don't have the crystal ball again, but I don't think on long run this will work. All of us to be isolated in home. Offices are adapting. A big part again of the existing portfolio is outdated with this coronavirus. If the managers or decision makers until now, they were more relaxed about taking a decision, and they were asking how much it costs if it is one-digit rent, then they will choose that. They were choosing those kind of premises. Now they will look more on the quality of the building, which ensures the safety of the employees. So things are evolving in the right direction quicker because of this COVID.
So what we're hearing, I guess, is that the working from home concept, which was being adopted before COVID, will continue, but the imbalance that we have right now because of COVID, your hope, I guess, and for everybody's well-being and sanity, is that there will be a sensible balance, but people will be coming back into the office. But Georgiana, let me come to you on this. In terms of, when we look at KPIs, we look at a typical KPI, and it's very sort of process orientated in terms of productivity and achievement and goals and everything else. What about well-being? Is that something, based on what Antonio's saying here, and everybody's sort of predicting of the way that's going to, when the dust has settled, that we're going to have a certain amount of people working from home and the challenges that have already been highlighted? How do we incorporate that into, I said KPIs, and KPIs for managers looking after their people? Is well-being going to become high on the list?
As I was mentioning, I think in my first intervention, I think well-being already is very high on the list of the HR managers, because everybody is talking about how this pandemic will be affecting us, and maybe we will go out of this pandemic more or less healthy as a body, but how will our minds go out of this situation? And yes, companies are looking at what can they do in order to be closer to their employees, and it's obvious that their well-being is also translated on a long-term performance, and it will be seen on the KPIs. But and again, I'm going back to the conference that I mentioned in February, where I was talking about the Corporate Sano program, which it's a program that we built, and we said, okay, it is very important when we look at the company, first of all, to understand what is the situation of the company. And also for managers, I see that it's more and more important for them to understand where is their company now, because before you would see a colleague on the lobby, you would speak with him and you would understand where he is positioned, which you don't have now. You really are missing this, and I think Luisa was mentioning in the beginning that you really need to have more one-to-ones, formal one-to-ones, because you are missing the ones that were the informal ones. So on this topic, we are really doing a lot and working with companies on this, and there are so many things that a company can do in this direction. Either if we are talking about workshops on specific things, on changing the former team buildings that you cannot do now into, I don't know, nutrition classes and teaching people how to eat more healthy, because I think everybody went out with a few kilos extra from this. Another topic that is very, very sensitive, it's in regards to the sleeping. And I was mentioning also in our previous conference that this is a topic that we don't really see it, and very few of us really understand if we sleep well or if we don't sleep well. And this is a problem that has been aggravated over the period of the past few months. So I think, of course, each company has its specificity. And from the point of view of the company, first of all, they would need to understand, okay, which are the topics that are most relevant for them, and then go and build programs for this. But indeed, I see more and more companies do this and wanting to speak about these programs. And Luisa, for example, Luisa and Orange are a very very good partner of discussion for us, for example, on this topic. And they've had this topic on their agenda from before the pandemic, and now doing lots of things for their employees.
Okay, so I guess what you're saying there, just you're kind of demystifying this word well-being as well, I guess, because the first instance is people think of physical well-being, and I think before the COVID we talk about the cognitive side of being able to do your job and think, but the emotion, I think, is what Antonio and everybody's touching on, isn't it? That's the bit that's rising to the surface that we need to keep a careful eye on that. Thank you.
Just to point, so from our point of view, when we think when we think of well-being, there are 5 pillars that we are looking at. First of all, okay, it's the health part, where there are different screenings, different things that you can do for your health. What we do as in our clinics. Then it's indeed the mental well-being, the mental health. Then we have the nutrition part, the kinetics part, which is a huge problem, and the sleeping side. These are the pillars that we believe that they are the most relevant today. I'm not saying that there are not others, but all of them in the end mean well-being from our perspective.
And I will add, if I may, the way we are reacting with our kids, because in this period of time, kids, not me, at home, we needed to teach and to help our employees to deal with their kids. Either the kids were a minor or they are adolescent or whatever, and we put in place a lot of workshop of free time as a parent with your kids. So I think this was increased in this period a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure a lot of people watching this are nodding their heads as you're speaking there, Louisa, I'm sure. Christina, I'm going to come to you and just sort of change direction a little bit, if I may, and just talk about, I remember, again, I'm talking like it's 4 years ago, but I remember 3 or 4 months ago, we were talking about attraction and retention. And again, fast forward, we talked about technology and how things are happening, the work from home and the virtual workspace. Christina, and I guess another aspect that's missing out, I mentioned to Jon about those spontaneous meetings, but also about promotion. Part of promotion, I guess, is having that engagement and being noticed within a company for having that passion and extra skills required, if you like, that you're actually pointed out as potential promotion material. I guess, Christina, that's a lot more difficult. So please tell us about how a company is going to be able to keep that loyalty, that retention through this and through the other side, when I think we're sort of submitting to the fact that a lot of people are still going to be working from home, maybe in a year's time.
Okay, thank you, Colin, for the question.
I thought I'd lost you then, Christine. So.
No, I'm still here. Yes. Maybe before answering to this question, just a very short comment on the previous topic on the well-being. It was very interesting how all the things that HR did really accelerated in the past months. And just to give an example, we succeeded to implement an employee assistance program within 7 days, which probably in the past would have been inconceivable. And we noticed that this platform is very, very used by our employees, not only by the ones, for instance, having, I don't know, isolation problems because they live alone at home or whatever, but also this platform contains, like, for instance, fiscal assistance or legal assistance. If you have issues for, I don't know, if you want to purchase a home and you need some legal advice, this platform also has specialists on these fields. So yes, all these things really accelerated with our friend COVID. And also I would say, now coming back to your question about how do we maintain the motivation of the people when everybody is at home, and how we make sure that retention is kept. Actually, our numbers, I'm happy to say that a bit contradict, because our attrition rate decreased significantly this year. If we look at what happened last year, we are now at half of the attrition that we had last year. So, and yes, I agree that one of the components is simply given by the context. Indeed, that people maybe are more reluctant, let's say, to make a change, to move into a different position in a different company. Maybe they think, okay, I know this company, I know it's making sure that they have all the safe conditions for me. Where I go, maybe it's not the same. So yes, I agree that the component is this one. But what played a significant role, and I heard this in all my predecessors' comments, was about, you know, making sure and transmitting, conveying to our people the trust in the company. You know, it's maybe the 7th time now, okay?
It's actually 11.
Oh my
counting.
Okay, so people want to feel reassured that the company they work for, it's really a safe company, it's a strong company that will be there also tomorrow. And our company, yes, happy to say that we are proud that we exist since more than 100 years. So for sure, we will be there tomorrow as well.
Yes.
And what required from our leadership team, what I noticed is that we had to make, and I think Georgiana mentioned this comment, that we had to over-communicate. We had to really make the effort to organize more team meetings, more one-to-one meetings. Every time we had a business concern, every time we had a news, we organized live sessions with all our employees. And we were very open to any kind of questions. It was, in fact, Teams event. We use a lot of Teams, in fact. So everybody can raise hand and ask a question, no doubt about it, and the question was answered on the spot. And this kind of things contribute to raising the confidence of the people in the organization. What other thing we did was to look at the benefits that we provide to our people, because obviously part of them became obsolete. What point to provide, for instance, contribution to transport to come to the office when in fact everybody stays at home, for instance, or to have, I don't know, fresh fruits in the office when the office is empty, and so on and so forth. So we had to really look at what we provide and to adapt it to the new needs of our people. We provide, I don't know, health classes online, like gym classes online, healthy diet workshops, and so on. And all that, I think all of them contributed to raising the confidence of our people.
Okay, interesting. Thank you for that. I'm going to come to Andre very quickly. Andre, you know, Christine is making a good point, and I know there's an expression of people remember how you treated them through the bad times. more than the good times. Is this going to be key for companies as they're going through this? And maybe is that going to be, as Christine is touching on, part of your retention strategy is going to be doing what we're doing good right now, because that's what these people will remember, and maybe, you know, hook themselves into a longer career than perhaps they would have?
That's a very good point, Colin. And when it comes to employee experience and loyalty and retention, I think we can look at this from different angles. And there are probably two angles I want to touch on. First one, and you know, I'm not trying to be a broken record here, but I think, you know, the leadership side of the game is what makes a significant impact on that. So let me tell you why I think that. You know, what we are facing these days is, you know, not an ordinary crisis, because I think, you know, we can use that word as well, but it's rather a kind of a large scale medical crisis combined with you know, some financial implications, and that calls for a very complex context, and in such a context, you know, where I do believe we actually don't have just one crisis, maybe 4 crises happening at the same time, which is, you know, if you look at the economy, we are talking about a demand crisis. We can also talk about supply crisis, medical crisis. But I think the fourth one, which is, you know, I gave a little bit of glimpse into it earlier. I think we are facing a fear crisis. And under these circumstances, I think the leadership side plays a critical role from at least one angle. I think this is the right time for business leaders to show empathy. I mean, trust is, yeah, obviously a buzzword for today's call, but I think empathy, that's something that can create and enhance the employee experience. So in the long run, they will remember how they've been treated during a crisis while they were working from home. Okay. Now, I think, you know, as business leaders, and this is me included as well, it is very important, probably more than ever, to actively listen. Just make a, you know, on purpose effort to reach out to the people and listen. In the office, there was something else. It would have happened, you know, by default maybe. But now we need to reach out to them and listen actively. As business leaders, we need to stay informed and not spend too much time on details. We are living times where, you know, a very quick decision making is very important. So to be able to make quick decisions, I think what's really, really important is that, you know, the command and control model, where, you know, the decision making process stays at the top, may not work, and leaders need to really, really empower the other team members. And I've heard leaders saying, hey, I cannot delegate this, I cannot empower my team members because I'm afraid they will make mistakes. Fine, you should find those team members who make mistakes, but not just making mistakes. Empower those ones who really learn and rapidly, you know, rebound from those mistakes. So this is one thing, and if you give me just 30 seconds, I'll wrap up, you know, quickly. So the leadership is one aspect that can really contribute to the employee experience and the long-term retention. The second thing is the office space, and I think there might be an elephant in the room, which, you know, I don't want to call out, but I will. There's also a question in the Q&A coming from Gabriel Damian about how do we see the future of the physical space and the office space. You know, remote work is not for everyone. So the future to me is kind of a blended environment. I think the fact that you see the Vim logo behind me is because I'm in a meeting room in the office. It is a ghost office. You cannot imagine the feeling I have. We are talking about 9,000 square meters. It's a ghost office. So, you know, remote work is not for everyone, if you ask me, but I think the future of the office space is somehow evolving into a collaboration and innovation type of an office. I mean, over time, I think we will realize that there's something missing by way of collaboration, to, you know, to sit together in a room, to see how people react, and, you know, to the ideas and proposals you have. And I think that's something that at some point in time we want to get back to. And, you know, the other thing about the office is, you know, even if the world can go remote and we can use technology, and we should do that, because, you know, we should not talk about the past but the future. I think, you know, the way the things stand with the current constraints in terms of, you know, difficulties people have by working remote, I do believe the office will still be helpful for people to learn and collaborate. So I think, you know, from those two angles, the leadership and the office, the way it's going to be set up to encourage innovation and collaboration in the future, I think that will contribute to the, you know, employee motivation in the long run, and the retention.
Okay, thanks, Andre.
I would like to add a few words also
to
this, starting from the question of Damian, Gabriel, and also from Andre answer. One thing is for sure, because the second question of Damian was, will it lose its importance, the offices? No, I don't think so. Because building on what Andre said, and I know Andre for quite some time already, because it is our tenant, and I'm
in a Vastin building right now, so
yes, yeah.
At the moment,
yeah, it's the third worldwide, the third building worldwide from LEED certification point of view. It's one of the best buildings in Europe. And I'm thanking you for the opportunity to say it. Really proud of it. What I would like to say is that continuing the idea of us being in our DNA, being wanting to be to permanently meet people and interact. Yes, the new reality, a part of us maybe will work from home, but it will be a mixed solution, as Andre also mentioned. We need the offices, not because we are developers. I'm speaking now like being Antonio, an employee also. I could not work from home. I have I'm lucky. I have also an office space at home, a room dedicated, but still it's insane to move in the same space all day long. At the office, you interact, you discuss with the colleagues, you have meetings. I looked back during this period, and I realized that we had a lot of issues during development, during design, during construction. There are a lot of issues popping up, and majority of them, they were solved in meetings, sitting down and finding solutions together. You cannot do this distant. You cannot. All of our deals, they were agreed face to face. No one deal was signed or agreed through phone. So the future of the offices are changing, but that doesn't mean they will disappear or that they will lose importance. They are still very important because we need to turn back to normality. Now it's a typical situation, all of us, and I know that Andre, it's working a lot, and not only him, working a lot on how it will look the future of the offices, how he will ensure the security of his employees. That's what we do also as developers. We are very focused on how we can further amend our buildings as such to be safe to our tenants and also to their employees. We contracted the Bureau Veritas, which is one of the largest specialized companies worldwide, to assess our buildings from safety point of view regarding COVID. So we are going that. We use different solutions to disinfect the spaces periodically. So there are many solutions that we implement. And why? Because we believe that we have to come back sooner or later to normality, today's solution of working from home, I believe it's temporary, because on long run, today it sounds good, and it is this inertia, or in Romanian, inertia, I don't know, it's English, I missed the word now, but we have this moving, which is, for the moment, sounds good. Yeah, work from home and the productivity is the same. It already starts to slow down in many companies, the productivity. And many reasons, starting from IT issues, security issues, health issues, and many other similar situations. So I still believe that we need to come back to reality. And not only because I speak about offices, but generally in our life, we need to stop isolating ourselves. It will not work on long run.
Okay.
I really like that approach, Colin, if you allow me to take it from here, because really what Andrei talked about, this mix between collaboration and innovation, which is actually the sense that I feel for an office. For me, the office, it's this platform for interaction, for human interaction. It's a platform where we can be together and have that experience that technology won't allow us. We are now in a virtual type of meeting. Imagine if we have been together in the same room, what were our reactions, our emotions in between us. And the mix between the leadership and the quality of the office, it's something that will emphasize and bring us back to the office. And I've touched on this subject a lot, lots of times, because it's on my desk every day. Work from home before it was not a new it was not a new thing in March. We had it long time before, and I remember reading a lot of information about it in the States. It was used by 3% of the workforce. In the European Union, it was a bit larger, 5%. In Romania, it was only 1%. I think it's a prevalent subject now because we've experienced it, and it helped us jump over this emergency period. But it's not for everyone, and it will rise because people will find that some of them are more efficient, more productive at home, but it will rise up to, I don't know, around 10%, not much. So we'll still need that office feeling of being together in the end.
I would like just to ask you to read a question of Andrei Gavrilovich. I think all of us, also our listeners, can read it. And you will see an essence of the questions that all of us will have to study. Please read it. I don't have anything else to add.
I think we'll come to, and thank you, Andrei, for the question. I do want to touch on this, and it does extend a little bit on Antonio, what you were saying there. We also had a question, and I can't pronounce it, Bulan Douagi, I think it's Douagi. Excuse me, my friend, if I pronounced it badly, about the experiences of fostering psychological safety in distributed teams. Mike, I want to come to you on leadership, because that word has been used 2 or 3 times now, and it was mentioned about empowerment. I think Andrei talked about empowerment and trust and delegation. In terms of, and Tudor sat there with CBRE proudly behind him, Andrei sat proudly with VM behind him, so the company branding is very strong there on this call. But how do we keep that culture, of companies' values and expectations, etc.? How do we maintain this company branding with our employees if they're not in that workplace? What is your strategy on this?
Well, from that point of view, our strategy has basically not changed. It is basically something I mentioned before, in the way that when you are having people included and not only members of participating or having them only as participating members of the team, it is a big difference. I mean, the inclusion and the company brand is creating by somebody who is adding value, not by somebody who is executing some orders or executing some tasks. And the most important part in order to maintain this going is to empower the people, but empower them really to include them into the decision process and into the activity, give them tasks so they can be proud of, because the brand and the proudness of the company is given by the achievement of the people, not by the sign on the wall. And if they feel that they contribute to something, and if they feel that they make a difference in this place, they keep the company value and they reduce the attrition, and there is no reason for them why to leave. Because the most important part for them, and especially for the young generation, is to have the feeling that they make a difference in this world.
Okay. Jon, I'll just come to you on that. I know you're going to agree with 100% what Mike said, but in practical terms, how is there any sort of way that you're doing that in terms of empowerment, delegation, the internal entrepreneurship that I know is very important to you? How are you managing that? Or more importantly, what's your advice to people listening to this to really do what Mike is saying there?
Well, definitely the contribution gives purpose, and it's what motivates people. Obviously, autonomy is another thing to consider, and to just be an enabler for the people and let them do their work. So this is just to create the frame that people can operate in, and coach them. And we even have, for example, in the sales team, we don't have a manager. We just have like a coach to, because apparently in sales teams, coachability seems to be like the best quality of a salesperson. So just give people the opportunity, and they will raise to the occasion. For us being organization that grew, we are, the founders are engineers, and we had to figure out a lot of the management part by ourselves. We are very much oriented towards problem solving, and this is in the DNA. We look for people that have this skill, because in consulting this is a must-have, so, in my opinion. And if you have this skill, and you search the people and select the people properly, then they should be able to navigate from where the client needs to go.
Okay. Thanks for that, my friend. I'm going to come to Georgiana in a minute, because I want to ask you, Georgiana, about on the psychological thing, and about how we can further enhance those or continue, I guess, those relationships between employee and the organization. But Christine, just taking you on this point there, he was almost saying there that the word manager is going to maybe start to dissipate or even disappear through these experiences, and how we're really looking differently at the emotions and how we interact with our people, how we delegate, how we show empathy. All of these words have been used. Is that something you will be starting to see, that the managers will turn into coaches now over the next period of time?
I think they are already part of them. They are good coaches already. Okay. We have made quite an important shift in our leadership culture last year, before the pandemic again, but we see now really the fruits of it coming to life, that we started to put a focus more on the responsibility and accountability of the people, delegating more, and towards a leader that is more empathic. It's it's a person that really understands the team and where it stands from. And I'm really glad to see that now these principles are starting to come to life. So yes, I can see it already in practice, that especially now when you are remote, it's really, of course, you believe that your team is okay. You believe that everybody is doing their roles, so it's no need to control, because if you move into that direction, I think you already lose part of your team. And motivation of the team starts to decline.
Okay.
So Yes, I see the fruits already, let's say, of this kind of approach, of a more empathic, or more close to the people approach. And they feel it as well. Actually, they feel it and they appreciate it.
Good stuff. Well, I have to give myself a little personal plug before I come to you, Georgiana, because the old man has gone back to school, and I've just recently qualified as an emotional intelligence practitioner, which is what Christina, what you're sort of touching on there. Georgiana, I guess emotional intelligence is a skill that everybody's going to need to adopt, I think, or if they haven't got it already.
That's for sure. But thinking of your question, I believe there is a very, very good point that you put there. When you think of what companies can do in order to offer, in a way, for the people protection and peace of mind, because I think Andrei pointed out a little bit earlier that this period is also with lots of fear. We are all surrounded by fear. And what I've seen companies doing is to try to create a platform that make employees feel more protected. You can't help someone, especially in this context, not that you could do it much more before, you can't help someone if they don't want to help themselves. And the perception that I'm getting is that HRs, what they are doing, they say, okay, for example, I want my employee, there is fear around the health of each of us, and I want my employees to feel more protected. Then what they did, they got them health plans that are more comprehensive than the one they had before. Not necessarily that they needed today more comprehensive plans, but it's about the peace of mind, about how do I take care more of myself. Also, these well-being programs, it's about making them available for the people, talking a lot about them so people know that whenever they need, they can access it. So this is the trend that I'm seeing. Okay, you can't push, you can't force someone to go to see a psychologist or to talk to someone when they need it, but companies want to create these platforms in order to be able to sustain and in a way protect their employees during this period, making them feel safe and protected.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Let's just put the psychological part to one side a moment, and let's get a bit practical. And I want to address the question from Andrei on the screen. Thank you, Andrei, for posing this question. And it's really about the practical part of working from home. We're in September. Winter, I'm sorry to depress everybody, winter is not that far away, which means gas bills, heating, and everything else. And I'm just sort of curious, and I'm going to come to Tudor on this, in terms of companies, how are they going to manage this when it's not just about the cost of somebody working from home, but also in terms of the cybersecurity, data protection, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Is it something that we're just surviving at the moment with the working from home, and we're thinking hopefully it won't be long and things will be back to normal, or is it going to be elongated? And how are we going to cope when it gets to the middle of January and you've got a young person in an apartment in the middle of Bucharest with the heating on full, and not being able to go and walk in the park and stretch their legs, etc. How are companies going to manage this economically?
I think you're right, Colin. We're in a survival mode right now. And I think the fact that this idea of work from home existed and some of us experienced it before, it really helped us pass this really dark period from the past few months. But it made us also notice that we are, again, in a legal void here. There are no rules for working from home. And there are rules for working in the office. There are certain qualities that you need to be aware of when you're designing an office building. And Antonio, of course, knows this a lot better. There's a natural light, there's a quality of air, there's the area that everybody needs. When you go deeper into the workplace usage, like ergonomics that you need to provide to everyone. all these things that you get for granted into the office, you need to improvise at home. And of course, each of us have a very personal experience at home. Some of us have children, some of us have families around, some of us, on the other hand, have nobody around, and they have a totally different type of psychological problems being alone for all this time. And we deal with them very differently, and there's an emotional impact on this, and there is a cost in it, because looking back, I was talking to somebody in the morning, my invoices at home, they really jumped up by staying there. The electricity, the gas, everything went higher, and there are some costs going there. And talking to different companies, I see that there's a tendency in the real estate to cut costs, depending on how much the businesses were impacted. The real estate is one of the first things that where you go to cut costs, and companies are coming to us trying to, I don't know, about 20–30% is the average of space that they want to lease back right now. They want to give up this type of service, saying that we're not going to need it anymore, and because people are going to continue working from home. But in the same time, while we're doing this, they are also considering some important packages for incentivizing the people that are working home. And of course, I'm curious to hear if you have something like this in your companies done to balance this type of cost and effort, individual effort that you take out of a controlled environment and moved into everyone's personal environment.
Okay, I guess that's something that may be triggered that they have to do it. But you mentioned I think you mentioned legislation there. I guess we don't know what as this continues, if legislation is going to force us to do something, which I guess is going to be the worst thing, because I guess the work from home as a voluntary exercise is healthy because you have that choice. If we're imposing something, I guess it's another animal. Andre, on his notes, just mentioned about health and safety as well. I guess and we pray not, but if somebody was to have a very bad accident at home and it became public knowledge, that could suddenly trigger a bit of a George Floyd moment in terms of how we all look at things, I guess. So it's kind of, as you mentioned, Tudor, it's still an unsure, slightly unsure area. We've got a few minutes left, so I want to kind of wrap up and really go through the panel very quickly if I can. Mike, I want to come to you first. Just a final words on just really touching on what Tudor says there in terms of the working from home and keeping everything in the right place. What's your advice for people out there who may be watching this thinking, I'm really not sure what to do, or maybe I'm going to wait to see what happens before making any decisions? What would be your advice for them?
Well, waiting to see what happened is the worst possible option. Okay. And generally we have to take decisions, and when things are changing, we have to adjust those decisions. But it's impossible to work without decisions. That generates most of the fears Andre is talking about it. Uncertainty is not an option at this period of time. We have talked a lot about empathy, and then we ask the question if we are going to help our people at home. I mean, these are two contradictory statements. We are either are empathic completely, or we are empathic just 25% or 75%. And what I mentioned also before, it is very important to develop business continuity plan. We have developed 3 business continuity plan until June 2021. So including all the next year, in which we analyzed what we do if we have to keep all people at home and have to pay their gas bill and bring them electric heaters if the heating fails and so on. What we do if some accidents happens in the buildings and we have to provide them some temporary shelter close to home. And how do we have to organize ourselves if the pandemic continues and we have to use larger spaces in the present offices? So basically, we have to think about the unthinkable and try to come up with some solutions and put them into the budget. Yes, I know it is painful because you have to provision for this money, and make the necessary plan that if something happens, you can act on the push of a button. And it is not very difficult.
So don't rely on hindsight, focus on foresight, I think is what
Yes.
I'm saying is a big. Andre, would you like to have final words from you?
Yeah, sure. You know what? I think it's about acting, right? And, you know, I don't want to copy paste what Mike just said, but, you know, just waiting and seeing what's happening will never help. So what we are actually doing, and that's more of an encouragement maybe to all the listeners on the call, is we are looking into 2 different scenarios. We look at the office, how it's structured, the infrastructure, what can go wrong, and we will act accordingly. And I think the best thing to do is, you know, instead of waiting, just go act and be able to rebound and adjust quickly. So that's, you know, my last thought on this. Let's do things. Let's think about the current context as, you know, we will never be able to go to where we were before. So let's not hope for, you know, something that will never happen again. Let's take the reality as is. Let's plan accordingly. I think there's a lot of planning required. And I think one last thing, because, you know, there's one question on the chat as well about the top 5 or the top 3 items that a company needs to do to re-enter the office building. I think, you know, most of us probably would say, hey, you know what, it's about the safety and the health and hygiene and whatever. But I was actually thinking the other day that we might need to put in place a reboarding or re-onboarding program for the people who will come back to the office. Because what happened to me last week when I was in the office, I bumped into one of my colleagues. She just happened to be here taking some stuff from the office to get it to her home. And she said, hey, Andre, are you available for a coffee chat? Because at home, nobody talks to me. And I was like, man, what's going to happen when 600 employees will return to the office? Not to talk about, you know, loss in productivity. Now we are talking about, you know, a lot of departments having higher productivity, which is good, but also the social interactions. I think we need to put in place maybe a re-onboarding program as well. So those are a few things going through my mind.
Really interesting. So yeah, I like the re-onboarding. Antonio, I'm going to come to you. I know your message is going to be get back into the office, but we are. I'm taking what Andre said about, and I think it's a very good point Andre makes about helping people to physically and mentally and psychologically do that on a physical sense. Antonio, what's your advice to people who might be afraid of walking into an office tomorrow or on Monday?
First of all, I would like to say that we have to protect our teams. We have to protect ourselves. That's for sure. We have to wash hands, which is normal anyway. We have to protect ourselves, of course, and we have to be aware and protect our friends and families and colleagues and so on. If we have some symptoms, we don't have to come to work, and we have to announce it very quickly. But bottom line is that we have to turn back to normality. Starting from the one of the items that it was very interesting in our viewers' questions or remarks was, what will happen if one of the employees will have accident at home during working hours? It goes to the limits. There's this discussion. I think that we have to ensure, all of us together, owners of buildings, together with business owners, with tenants, we have to work together to find the best ways of returning to normality. I'm not speaking in my name, Antonio. I feel the same. I don't think the future is to be caged in a room. Like I felt like a lion in a cage. I think that's the best expression, working from home.
Okay. Okay.
I'm an active person, and majority of us, we are a generation or several generations of very active people, more and more sports activities, outdoor activities. We are not cage people. So we will have to work together to can return to activity in a safe way.
Thanks for that, and thank you to Storina and Laura for the questions. I think we kind of covered them, but I want to move quickly on to Jan. What's your final word for listeners and a bit of advice, maybe?
Yeah, well, as Antonio said, you know, I see a hybrid future where people work from home and people come to work. They need this social interaction. We need this culture to be reinforced by coming to the office. Maybe not that often as before, and it's going to be a challenge now because we see that the remote is working, and productivity is high. All office is good, but from personal experience, where we have people in various parts of Romania, they sometimes tend to be forgotten and become like second-class, you know, citizens in the workplace. So we need to make sure, you know, they get the attention, and everybody gets a good experience, you know, working together, both remote and both in the office.
Really good advice. Don't forget those people who are working from home if you're in the office. It's really good advice. Christina, a couple of words from you, please.
Well, actually, it's difficult to add something to what already has been said, but if I would have to say something in addition, I would say keep your flexibility. Be adaptable to whatever will happen, and make a good planning so that you can adapt the plan to the new context. And yeah, make sure that you don't forget any of your people, being in the office or being at home, no matter what. Don't forget them.
That's a strong message.
Yes.
Thank you, Christina. And I think what you're saying is don't have a plan A and plan B. Have a plan C and a plan D as well. Yeah, be adaptable.
Yeah, be adaptable. Yes.
Louisa.
Yeah, I probably not say such a smart thing like my colleagues, but I will say that come back to work, because you can never live in the cocoon forever. I mean, come back. I know it's safe to stay at home, and probably with everything what is happening around, and with all the noises and the information coming in waves, it's safer to stay home. But come on, you cannot stay in the crystal globe like Michael Jackson was trying once. Come to work, because come to the office, because this is the real life.
Okay. See, Antonio, see the influence you've had on Louisa there. So thank you.
That's the reality.
And finally, Georgiana.
My final words will be, I will stay on the health, because I'm coming from the health field, and unfortunately it's a health crisis. But my message, to build on Luisa's message of coming back in the office, I think the key idea for coming back in the office is to keep ourselves safe. And when we think about keeping ourselves safe, I don't think it's the job of the companies to keep their employees safe. It's also the job of the employees to keep themselves and the business continuity going there. So I think the important message is, in order to keep ourselves safe, we need to take care of our employees, but they also need to take care of themselves and their colleagues.
Good advice. Keep an eye on those people next to you. Is what is it when somebody says fine, it means I'm not fine, sort of thing, I guess. Yeah, so it's okay. So thank you all. There's some great advice. We're just going a little bit over time. I want to come back to Mirella in a moment, but before I do that, Mike, Tudor, Andre, Antonio, Jan, Christina, Louisa, and Georgiana. Sounds like I'm reading out the name of a pop band here, but thank you so much for your contributions. I'm sure everybody's benefited from it. I've enjoyed it. I can only be as good as the panelists, and you've made me look reasonably good today. So thank you guys. Mirella, final words from you. You've got another event coming up as well, I think.
Just I want to thank you, Colin. Thank you to all our guest speakers, to attendees. A very great discussion, and see you at the next event. Will be Smart Transformation Forum next week. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
We can all wave.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
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 Bye.